Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spider-Man Miles Morales. We have to spiffy up the place a little bit. A case file, the Prowler. Who calls himself something like that?
Why is it? Why
This
are?
also would never happen in real life. Well, not without his dad. Well, I guess his dad's dead, so he can't get fired if he's already dead. But
Well, it is possible. It is possible for them to take case files home so that they can work from home, but there would be a process for that, and they probably wouldn't leave them behind.
especially
yeah,
after, especially after they died.
yeah, that's more what I'm thinking. It's just like,
I think the implication, since this is boxed in with a bunch of old records, is that it was a really old case file, like from maybe before some of the current modern regulations were put down, and he was working in a bit more of a casual way than he would have with the current batch of red tape set up.
you had brought up a really good point about the Avengers game last part. However, I had already stopped recording, so I couldn't mention anything about it. I remember you and we did a sponsored video on that game when it first came out. It
Yeah,
actually looked really, really cool. And especially like there was a lot of really cool world building and character growth stuff with Kamala at the very beginning, which
yeah.
was awesome. And you did see some good character interaction with the heroes in the cutscenes from what we've seen. But it seemed like since that game was so focused on being kind of like a grindy multiplayer experience versus a fun single player one,
Yeah.
they weren't able to really do much with the character aspects of these characters.
There are some cool scenes and interactions that occur later on, but with the different characters. But as soon as you gain access to the mission screen on the ship, the game sort of dissolves into this kind of go-to place, go fight through place, get loot box items, common, uncommon, rare, epic, that kind of thing. And it's just like, ugh. I signed up for this game because I wanted to see the characters and be the characters and, you know, do the Marvel Comics thing. I did not particularly care to spend the next 12 hours grinding for epic loot.
Yeah, like honestly, grinding for loot just kind of feels like it goes against the idea of a superhero. Not necessarily every superhero, but with like a superhero team kind of game like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you could probably find there's millions of superheroes. You could find a superhero where that fits, but not for like the big. Like you shouldn't need to find the epic rare drop Hulk purple pants for Hulk to be strong. That's not really the point.
the whole loot box equipment system in that game really did spoil it after a while for me. Um, I didn't have time to really understand the effect that was going to have on my experience before finishing that sponsored video, though.
Yeah, whenever we do one of those, we only get to play the game for a couple hours, because they want the game out ASAP, the video
Yeah,
out ASAP.
yeah. But I also probably wouldn't have been as harsh on it at the time for that because I hadn't at that time I had not quite had a chance to get as annoyed with the concept of loot tiers and what they bring, or more specifically what they absolutely do not bring to the gaming experience. But because it's so popular to see that kind of shit in games like Fortnite or whatever, it's in everything now. Even fucking Baldur's Gate has loot tier labels. For all the point it makes, the rare items would be just as rare if you didn't highlight them in orange.
Well, at least in a game like Fortnite, they are very clearly um cosmetic. In a game like the Avengers, or even like from my experience, like when you're trying to play Hyrule Warriors or whatever, and you need the rare drop in order to upgrade your character or whatever, that shit sucks because it takes forever. And you don't want to bother going through all that work. if it's just like, oh, I want to get the rare Goku mask for my character, at the very least you can play the full game, and that's more of a reward for playing the game a lot versus needing to grind so that you can compete on a basic level.
Why didn't he just go in the way he came?
Because then he'd get caught. See, he had to have been in his room the entire time. Otherwise, the story wouldn't make sense. Ryan, gosh.
Miles does a very bad job of hiding.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. Although it's gonna be weird, like if they eventually like get to the point where Miles has been around so long that they no longer can feasibly have him as the plucky underdog hero, and then they have to make Miles for Miles. And then Peter's like a weird grandpa.
Yeah, Pete's a weird grandpa at the age of 34.
Listen, it happened to Dante. It can happen to Pete too.
Well, to be fair, it only happened to Dante because half demons live so goddamn long.
Well, how old is Dante supposed to be? Like 40?
Devil May Cry 1 happens when he's like... It's 20 years or so after his mother dies. And then there's a bunch of time after that because Devil May Cry 2 happens. Then Devil May Cry 4 happens. Man.
So like he's like what, maybe in his mid-30s? It's like Hobo Phoenix all over again.
Well, I mean, there's also the Devil May Cry anime in the middle there, so time does pass. And the thing is, we do have a bit of a definitive timeline on that because the little girl from the anime calls up Dante in DMC5 to tell him to invite him to her 18th birthday party. So, yeah,
but still, like if she was a little girl and let's say 13 years have passed, he's still probably only like 40. Which isn't that old. Contrary to popular belief, being 40 does not mean you're that old.
Oh yeah. Wait, what? I lost track of what was happening. Don't hit send.
I haven't been paying attention during this whole conversation. There's actually something very refreshing about not knowing who these characters are and like thus not absolutely like knowing what's going to happen as soon as you see someone.
Yeah.
That's a big thing with superhero stories. Like whenever you're watching a Batman like movie or TV show or whatever, and you see someone named Harvey Dent, you know exactly what's going to happen to them. When you don't know, like I don't know Miles's stuff nearly as well. So, like, especially when I saw Spider-Verse 1, I didn't know that his uncle was a bad guy, and that literally, like, almost made my jaw drop when that reveal happened.
Well, now you know, so now every time they use it, it's not surprising.
Damn it. What?
Well, yes, I am foreshadowing what's happening in this game.
I can put off homework for at least another week. I remember being an innocent kid and thinking that. It never worked out. I like how they barely wanted to animate the washing of the dishes, though, so they just...
it seems like a pain in the ass. You have to have a thing. You have to be a character holding a towel, and that towel touching a dish sounds terrible. I would hate to have to animate that.
Yeah. Ooh. That is.
I love how teenagers are like Omega level smart. Yet again, like Peter can't seem to make money off of all the shit they're able to do. Or how the world is still perennially stuck in like mid 2000s.
Yeah, it's like geniuses grow on trees, but for some reason technology never advances.
It's just because people haven't put in enough effort to try to write around smartphones, which doesn't seem like it should be that hard, but for whatever reason,
you do get a smartphone in this game because you have your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man
app. Sign in to use app.
Yeah,
Sign in
people
to what?
people can download the app and request help from Spider-Man.
Huh. That sounds like a terrible idea. Don't do it.
So the entire game takes place on Christmas Day, then?
Around Christmas time, yeah.
Cool.
It happens over the course of a few days.
We getting like a dragon up in here. You know how many of those games take place around Christmas, so Kamurocho is all decorated in Christmas stuff?
How many are there?
Quite a few. The games are generally made to look like they take place in the present day of whenever they're released. Why did your web just phase through that? Okay. So the web system is not perfect.
Hi, Uncle Aaron. I hope you don't go back to your old ways and betray me later.
He's so unimpressed.
Wait, who's this?
This is Miles's uncle.
Oh.
The guy who is conveniently tied to that file we had.
Interesting. And he and his his brother just never seem to get along for some reason. I wonder why.
Well, of course he didn't recognize you. You're wearing a full face mask.
Well, you know, the voice.
Yeah.
Now, is it just me, or is Miles significantly twirlier in the air than Peter?
I think there might be more animations for this specific suit, to like mimic the movie more.
Huh. Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Although, again, I'm pulling shit out of my ass.
It's just like he keeps doing weird spins that I don't remember seeing happen in.
Because I'm holding the trick button that gives you it gives you small amounts of EXP.
Oh, I see. A way to grind on your way to the next grind.
Kind of. Yeah, this is a basic, straightforward run through. We won't be doing any side stuff. So besides this required one.
I see.
They say it's technically a side mission, but you have to do it.
Yeah, it's the tutorial side mission that every game has because they think every game might be someone's first game, so we need to tell them how the jump button works.
A little bit.
It's weird. The more, like, commonplace gamer knowledge has become in the public consciousness, the more games feel the need to hold our hands and tell us how basic gamer knowledge works. You know, it's just, you know, I think that's a little backwards. Tiny bit
reminds me a little bit of the sequelitis, where it's just like that old video. It's like, well, what happens if I'm literally unwilling to just press any buttons and see what happens? I'm stuck. It's like, at some point you have to realize people are going to press buttons to, you know, see what happens, right? You don't have to explain literally everything.
So my nephew is 3 years old, so a literal toddler. And I've been trying to get him to play Super Mario Brothers. And he's having trouble, as one might expect, especially since his parents only let him play for like 20 minutes at a time. But, you know, like, once I told him, okay, you use this to move and you use this to jump, he could at the very least, like, navigate the first level. I don't think he beat it, but he could, like, move around. He, like, ran into the Goomba and down pits and stuff like that. And had trouble jumping and moving at the same time and whatnot. But, like, basically the point is that even literal infants can pretty quickly figure out the rules of how these things are supposed to work.
I'm just like, these games aren't aimed at toddlers, and toddlers.
Yeah,
aren't
I
going
know.
to be
That's
playing them.
That's what I'm saying. Toddler, you would have a hard time as a toddler trying to play Spider-Man. That's not the point. But
the point I'm trying to make is that most people who pick up this game, whether they're gamers or not, are going to know what a side quest is. And yet games still have this tendency to try and over-explain how side quests work. And it's vexing because, like, I don't get why. I do not
I
understand
think part of it might
why.
just be because every game does side quests slightly differently.
Slightly differently.
That's the only thing that I've got. Like,
I'm
like,
trying to think. I'm trying to think of a case of a game doing side quests slightly differently.
like whether or not you can miss them, whether or not they're being tracked, stuff like that is more what I'm thinking about. What do you get for beating them? Does the game track if you beat them? Do you get a mini map? Like, are they marked on the mini map? Like, these are things that are different between different games.
Yeah, fair enough. I just don't think we need 2 or 3 whole missions at the start of every game.
I don't
that
think
stuff.
that you need a whole mission to explain how side quests work either. But like having a pop-up window certainly would be fine.
A pop-up window that tells you this is what a fucking side quest icon looks like on the minimap. Yeah, okay, fine. That's helpful. Nobody reads the fucking manual, so they stopped writing manuals. That's just the world we live in. But
Lewis, before we continue this commentary, would you like to read the terms and conditions for BrainScratch comms?
oh yeah, I love that. Okay, nobody reads the fucking manual, but every game starts with a mile-long legal contract now. And I'm just like, people don't read this shit, right?
They're counting on you not reading that shit.
By watching this episode of BrainScratch Commentaries, you have agreed to sell us your soul and your firstborn child.
Thanks. What are we going to do with so many kids?
The reason they do that is because they want to have the act of players picking the I agree button to fall back on as a legal defense in the case of some spurious lawsuit. It's the same kind of reason that they do that every game has a seizure warning at the beginning of it now. Although that is arguably way more helpful.
Yeah, I mean, as silly as Reckless Silhouette Guy in the Wii games was, people did need a legitimate reminder to not knock shit over or throw their Wii remotes at things.
Yeah. But, there's a difference between putting up a warning to make sure that everyone has a warning that they can look at, and if they ignore it, that's their fault, and putting a 3-page fucking terms of use essay at the beginning of a game, followed by a privacy policy that's just as long.
Did you ever watch Homestar Runner, Lewis? Because they have a legal page on it's a Flash cartoon website for any of the viewers who aren't familiar with it. They have a legal page on their site. And that legal page lists all the legal shit about the site. And then occasionally the main character will walk up in front of the thing and go, "Bowling," and then walk away. Which is my favorite. I was going to say my favorite legal document of all time. There's a fucking lot of choices. And my favorite's the Magna Carta because XYZ. But I find that amusing.